Do you find it difficult to forgive those that have hurt you?
On today's episode, we're going to be talking about the power of forgiveness and how to find peace within yourself. Stay tuned.
Welcome, everybody, to the Manifestation Mindset Show, where we talk to you about the mindset of manifesting, overcoming emotional challenges, and breaking through limitations. We are your hosts. I'm Dr. Aaron Garcia.
And I'm Veronica Mendez, and we go live every Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific. So if you like the show, feel free to share it to those who you believe would benefit from it. And you can find us on Facebook and on YouTube. So go ahead and click the live notifications, click that bell icon, follow us, and that way you can be notified of when we go live.
Absolutely. So, and if you're tuning in with us live today, we would love to hear from you. You could type your comments. If you have any questions, you could put those here into the comment. Even if you're watching the replay, we'd love to hear from you as well. So let us know where you're tuning in from, because we always like to see where people are coming from. They're all over the world. So put those in the comments as we go through our show today. But before we get into today's topic, we always like to start off with a bit of inspiration, which is our inspirational moment with Veronica.
So inspirational moments is when I like to read something inspirational. Sometimes it's writing, a quote from a book. And today I have a book by Louise Hay. It's called You Can Heal Your Life. Here's the book there. And I like this book because it has a lot of great information regarding, like say you have physical problems, it'll let you know what's the probable cause of it. And a lot of times it's emotional stuff that we hold on to. So because we're talking about forgiveness today, I decided to read something from this book that talks about that. And this one, the title of the paragraph says, "We can change our attitude toward the past." It says, "The past is over and done. We cannot change that now, yet we can change our thoughts about the past. How foolish for us to punish ourselves in the present moment because someone hurt us in the long ago past. I often say to people who have deep resentment patterns, please begin to dissolve the resentment now, when it is relatively easy. Don't wait until you are under the threat of a surgeon's knife or on your deathbed, when you have to deal with a panic too. When we are in a state of panic, it is very difficult to focus our minds on the healing work. We have to take time out to dissolve the fears first. If we choose to believe we are helpless victims and that it's all hopeless, then the universe will support us in that belief, and we will just go down the drain. It is vital that we release these foolish, outmoded, negative ideas and beliefs that do not support us and nourish us. Even our concept of God needs to be one that is for us, not against us." And there's another thing that I might read later, but that I thought that was good information regarding our topic for today about forgiveness. So if you enjoyed that, or tell us what you thought about that, write it in the comments.
Absolutely. And I think that it's very important. And, we talk about this a lot in our work that we do with our clients. And also, we've mentioned it a few times here on our episodes over the past few years. But it's a very important concept, is this concept of forgiveness. And we've had questions come from many people that, they're trying to wrap their mind around this concept. Even we've tried to wrap our minds around this concept, because you can come up with so many different scenarios of where someone might have wronged you or done something, and it's all relative. Some are worse than others. And people can come to this concept like, how can you forgive somebody that has done X, Y, or Z? I remember we were watching a documentary a few years ago on Netflix, and it was regarding Auschwitz in the concentration camps during World War II. And there was a part where they would take twins into these camps and start doing all kinds of either experiments or testing, and a lot of them died. And so they were interviewing or doing a documentary on some of the survivors of these people, and it was mainly on this one woman who really just forgave, all the Nazis and everything. Even though they killed her twin sister, she had this sense of forgiveness and let that all go. And they would show the conflict between her and some of the other survivors who couldn't understand that and would not let that, just so angry. And you can just see the peace of mind this woman had, because even though what all the wrong things they have done to her and her family, she was still able to get to a point of forgiving them, and it really helped her heal on the inside.
And I think people they take forgiveness in the wrong way. Like they think that just because you forgive someone for something they've done that it's okay. And that's not what forgiveness is about. It's not that you agree with what they did or that it's okay. It's just letting go of the energy behind what they did. Like if you have hurt feelings towards them or anger, it's letting go. It's pretty much letting them go and whatever they did. It's not because when you think about trying to get revenge towards someone, it only makes things worse. It's not going to make things any better. And then there's going to be a battle, a constant battle. And that's between two people. But when you hold that resentment, anger, frustration towards someone, it's only hurting you. That person might not even know that you're angry. Mm-hmm. And it's only hurting you on the inside. So, think about that one.
And I think we've all had these experiences in the past. Maybe it was a relationship that went wrong, and I remember in the past I used to be like so upset, and I would hold on to it and wouldn't forgive, and just because maybe the thought process in my mind, I always try to analyze it was, well, if I'm upset, it's gonna bother them, or they're gonna feel sorry to the different scenarios, like, I'll show them. But really, it just created so much agony within me, and what that could translate to in different relationships. And when I started to identify this concept of forgiveness in everything, and there was even another scenario where we talked about this. I remember I was young and I wanted to get the stereo system for my car.
Yeah.
And so I went to this place. It was an audio place, and the guy said, "Hey, you get the top of the line with all the new Sony stuff." I was excited. I was young, I was like 18 at the time, and I was excited about it. And so I got the new stereo, I got the seat. When they still had like the six disc CD player, then I got all those, and I was really happy about the purchase. And then I remember I went back home and I started doing some research on the system that I bought, and I realized that wow, what I paid was like 2 or 3 times more than what it was actually worth. And then I felt like the guy ripped me off. And
what made you do the research?
I don't know what it was, because I walked out there, really, I spent quite a bit of money, and I think I either saw it in an ad or something. And I saw the same thing. I don't know if I was searching for it, if I saw it. It's been a while. Yeah. But I remember I saw that, and I was really upset, thinking, wow, this guy just ripped me off. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I was taken advantage of. I was so mad at this gentleman. And for years. And then I never saw this guy ever again, but I was still like upset about it. And when we started to do like some work and healing, and that event showed up in a sense of trusting and being taken advantage of, and like you don't realize how these different events show up in future events in your life. If you're still holding on to grudges, you're still holding on to resentment, you're going to find these same scenarios in different people or different groups in different areas, whether it's going on right now for you, or maybe it's going to happen in the future in a different person, but it shows up in some way, shape, or form. And when you learn to let it go and let all that anger and resentment dissolve, the peace that you feel with that is something you have to experience. I can't really describe it to you, but it's like, wow, that doesn't bother me anymore.
Because when you go back to that scenario of having that resentment towards the guy that sold it to you. It was, when you look back, it was still your choice to go in and buy it. Like, he didn't force you with the gun to your head to buy the stereo system. So it's still our choice. And maybe, he was just, upping the price. Like, we see that everywhere nowadays. And it's, how did you feel with the stereo system after you bought it, knowing that you paid?
I like the system.
So you still like
I still like the system.
Yeah.
But what we're talking about here is where we have scenarios and we create this picture in our mind. Here's what happened. He did this because he's a cheat, he's a scammer, all this. Mm-hmm. And we create these stories in our own mind. And that might not even be the whole case at all. Yeah. And a lot of times, in order for us to dissolve things, we have to look at things from a different perspective. Mm-hmm. We can't just have one view on something. We have to look at different scenarios. Who this guy was, what was going on. And it was my choice rather than trying to blame somebody else. Well, I made that choice. Now, I realized this years later as we started to work, when I started to understand how this all works, and I had to look at it from a different lens now, and like I forgave the guy,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like it wasn't his fault. It was my fault. I made the choice. I didn't do my research. I just went and I was so excited and I was in an emotional state and I'm like, oh, I'll take whatever.
Yeah. And then going back, what you learn from that is do your research, because every time Aaron's going to make a purchase, he's always doing his research and comparing pros and cons of whatever he's going to buy. And so that's something that you learn from that.
It's a pattern. Like we learn things from these events, so we know what to avoid for the next time, and we have to bless those events because they strengthen us. They teach us lessons, and life is all about learning lessons. And the question is, do we learn the lesson? Do we get to pass to the next level and pass go, or do we keep going back to jail, reliving the same scenario over and over again?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's interesting because, like, we don't know, like you said, we don't know what the guy, we don't know what he paid for it, because he could have paid top dollar as well. And then he's trying to, earn some money from it. So it's all relative. Like we really don't know the other person's story unless we were to ask.
Yeah. So that's one little scenario. But let's talk about another scenario, someone that could be a little more harsh. And we did an interview with a friend of ours a few years back, whose father murdered his mother when he was younger. And there was a lot of siblings involved with this, but the father killed his mother, and to a certain point after in his life, it took some time, but he got to a point where he was able to forgive his father for what he did. And some people might not understand that because not a lot of people go through those scenarios, but that's another like, wow, well, how do you use forgiveness in that type of situation? How do you forgive when someone's done something really horrible, either to the world, to people? There's mass shootings, there's murders, all kinds of things going on in this world. And again, when we're talking about is how does it make you feel on the inside by holding on to the anger? And it doesn't make it right. It doesn't excuse what people do, but it's what you choose to do and feel on the inside.
Yeah, because it only eats you on the inside when you're holding on to that, and it's not healthy for you. So then, like the quote or the paragraph that I read from the book, it's saying, like, if you don't let stuff go, you're gonna make yourself sick. You're gonna end up needing surgery, um, because you're sick of something, grow a tumor, whatever it is. But stuff like that does happen, and you mess up your chemistry in your body. It just starts to manifest in dis-ease in the body. And that's what Louise Hay was talking about in this book. And there's so much here in the book. She talks about releasing the past, and also it says all disease comes from a state of unforgiveness. So whenever she used to work with people, she used to search for, like, what needs to be forgiven, or who do you need to forgive. And those are, like, the people who you feel that you can never forgive. That's the one, specific person that you really need to let go of and forgive, because those are the ones that are really affecting you.
Yeah, and we had a couple clients where they had issues with their family growing up, and two people will come to my mind that had issues with their fathers.
Yeah.
One father, left the family, and we have to pay attention to, because that was such a young age for this lady, that she was maybe like 4 or 5 at the time. But at those ages, we really don't have certain concepts that we can understand. And when he left, again, they create the story, and how does that make him feel in the story? And so she felt all this sense of abandonment growing up, and how that trickled into relationships. And when we started to work with her to help unravel this and peel it off, and how it's affecting her and everything, and in her current marriage, how it's affecting her and her business, is that one event, has a butterfly effect for her, and it was still playing itself out in her life. And when she was able to let all the emotion go, she was able to forgive, and she started to understand, see things from a different perspective, and she realized, wow, that's not the way it was. And it was interesting because her father had passed away, and she had like a dream or a vision, and was able to talk with him and pretty much like hashed it all out, and and she just seemed so much happier afterwards.
Yeah, because she was able to finally let go of whatever she was holding on to, and it's like we don't really know the full story. Like what comes to mind is that movie Coco, where the little
Mhm.
boy he liked music, and then he was there's this long story, but it turns out that the father he thought was his wasn't really his father. It was
Great great grandfather,
a
that's what it
great
was.
great grandfather. Yeah, and but it's interesting, like we don't know the whole story of our past and what those people went through. So it's like sometimes um, unless we know, then you know then we can
Mhm.
piece the pieces together. But even if we do know and say they purposely left for whatever reason, that's maybe what they knew to do in that moment, and we don't know what they were going through emotionally either. So it's still letting go and forgiving and moving on, because if we still hold on to all those things, it's just going to eat us away on the inside.
And a lot of conflict in our lives comes from misunderstanding.
Hmm.
It's like we don't understand what people are thinking or going through, and we assume. And the assumptions are what create issues rather than asking the person, what were you thinking? What were you feeling about this? And this is something that has really helped us in our relationship is we talk. And I think that's something that problem with a lot of couples that we've seen and experienced
Hmm.
and is that there's not a lot of communication and nobody wants to like open and share what they're feeling because of, well, I'm afraid of what they're going how they're going to react or what they're going to say, and so they keep it bottled up. And then, by the way, because of their bottling all this emotion up, it's showing up in their behavior, and that creates tension in relationships rather than just talking about it. And I think it's a trait that's been brought up as from an upbringing. How did the parents do the same thing? Were they distant, emotionally shut down? It's like we learn these patterns from different people in our lives, but it's like learning to change those patterns. And when we can learn to open up and communicate, you'll find that a lot of the conflict things that we thought were going on in our minds were not true at all. And it's like, wow, I was thinking this for so long. Like I was thinking for years that guy scammed me.
Hmm.
And then it's like when I changed my perspective, it was like, even if he did scam me, it doesn't bother me anymore.
Yeah,
It's
but
like,
but in a sense, it was like he really, because we talked about this when you had told me that story, and I said he really didn't scam you because you chose to buy it, and if you would have done your research ahead of time, you would have known it's overly priced.
yeah, he didn't point a gun to my head saying
Yeah,
you're gonna buy this or else. And it was
y-
like, no, I wanted it. I was excited.
yeah. So it was just a decision, an emotional decision that you jumped on something to buy it because you were excited, and that was it. It wasn't like he sold you defective equipment. That would have been more of a
Yeah.
scam.
But it was a good system.
Yeah.
So I have a quote here that I like from this is from Paramahansa Yogananda. We learn a lot of our stuff from this great teacher, and it's he's saying wrath and hatred accomplish nothing. Love rewards. You may cow down someone, but once that person has risen again, he will try to destroy you. Then how have you conquered him? You have not. The only way to conquer is by love. And where you cannot conquer, just be silent or get away and pray for him. That is the way you must love. If you practice this in your life, you will have peace beyond understanding.
Yeah.
And it's, there's going to be, people that, again, they do really bad things. And a lot of times you can't change other people, but you can only change yourself from within. And so if someone's doing something you don't agree with, it's not saying, "Oh, I forgive him for what he's done." It's like send love to them. You don't have to agree with what they're doing, but if they continue the actions, then it's like separate yourself from them. And this is what I've learned to do is like if I couldn't change somebody, is I all I could do was I could pray for them. I can just hope and pray that they get better, that they kind of see things. I pray for myself and situations, whatever that is, because that's really the only thing that I can do. I can send that energy out.
Hmm.
And what's fascinating is it works. And I had to experience this myself by doing that. Trying to force things and make a change physically just wastes a lot of energy.
Yeah, people don't want to be forced to change. Like they want to be able to make that decision on their own, and eventually, they'll realize that maybe something that they're doing is harming them, or it's not good, but they always have to, it has to come from them in order to change. So, yeah, you can't change anyone. You have to first change your thoughts about what you feel about them and just pray for them, send them love.
Yeah, and one of the biggest things is like people could be asking, well, how do I do that? How do I forgive for this person who's done X, Y, or Z? And there's a process to this, and it's not just something that's a quick fix. It takes time. It's a practice, and it also takes a lot of understanding. Right now we're trying to give you guys a lot of understanding on how this works, and once you realize why should I forgive, it's like, okay, that sounds great, but then you have to practice this to understand it and experience it, and then you may want to do that more. And I've done these processes on many people in my life. Anybody that I felt like has ever done me wrong, or maybe I've got upset with, from people in high school to college to
Elementary.
elementary. I mean, it can go so far back, and there's a lot of different forgiveness processes out there. One that helped me was the meditation of Ho'oponopono, which is a Hawaiian meditation, and it really is a visualization where you imagine yourself kind of like in a theater, and you're the only one in the seats, and on the stage there's a stage, and then on the stage you just visualize bringing that one person you're going to focus on onto the stage, and they're looking right at you on the stage. And then as they're standing there, you say mentally, I forgive you. Can you forgive me? And then you just wait there. And then if you feel emotion wants to come up, let it come up, because you have to get that energy out as you are visualizing this person. And then once everything is calmer and within you, it's an inner calmness. That person will eventually dissolve, and then you can bring up another person, and however many people you need to bring on the stage, and then bring them all together, and then you just keep repeating that process as many times as you need to.
And if you're wondering, like, oh, do I need to forgive anyone? When you think about a person and you start to get angry and just thinking about them, then that means that there's some forgiveness there that you need to do. And yeah, so because like if you're just talking about them, you start, they did this and they did that, then it's definitely some forgiveness there.
And what has helped us is, again, put yourself in the other person's shoes. And when you kind of understand their story more, how was this person raised? What was their upbringing? What kind of things did they have to go through? And we know some people that are not really nice people, and we choose to separate ourselves from them. But when you understood their backstory, being beaten up by their parents, a lot of abuse, like just emotionally distant people, being ridiculed all the time, you can understand how somebody could become very bitter in their life. And again, it doesn't make it right, but that's how people grow up the way they are, because of environment. Who are they around? What are they hearing? What's the messages that they're being programmed with on a day-to-day basis?
So then you learn compassion by understanding a little bit of their history, is like like you mentioned, put yourself in their shoes. You learn to have compassion for others, and we've talked about it. It doesn't make it right, but it's just a bigger understanding of everything.
Because when someone's like that, what happens if you start getting angry? Then you either lash out, or you can tell there's just the energy between you and that person or a group of people. And what does that do? It's like what I was saying earlier, is if you have a lot of wrath and anger within you, that energy, it's like anger coming back at anger, and it's just going to be a dispute. But if you come in with a sense of love and compassion, and they can sense that, like, wow, they're not really bothered by this anymore. It's like, would that person be more willing to open up and talk? Because if you can't help someone to change if you're always angry or lashing out at them. But if you come with love, a lot of times people are really hurting on the inside. You just don't realize it. Yeah. And if they're angry people all the time doing bad things, because they've been hurt so much and so deeply, and no one's ever tackled that before. And so when we come with love, that's how we can change things.
Yeah, and I believe, like in today's world, that's what needs to be done more, instead of fighting and going to war and doing all these things and people dying. It's like, just send the whole world love. And we've participated in a worldwide prayer meditation where at a certain time on a certain day, there was a worldwide meditation and love being sent all around the world.
Actually, no, it was to one specific location that was having
Hmm.
some challenges.
That's right. That's right. It was a specific point, not in the U.S., but somewhere else. And from what they noticed is the the energy was changing in that area
Hmm.
because they have a way of looking at the energies and things like that. And through that prayer meditation, it did change it. And I think they even said that stuff started to get more peaceful in that area where
Yeah.
everything was chaotic. And so it works. And so next time, you're encountered with an issue, just send love, send prayers, and there's a lot of great energy and miracles that come from that.
Yeah, and whatever starts to rile up within you, if you start to feel upset or angry, remember that's within you, and so and all that it's going to do is affect your physical health. It's going to affect your attitude, your whole entire being. But it's important to get that out, not on other people, but get that emotion out. Because once you get all the anger and hurt and all that out of your system, that's how you can get to love. But that love feeling gets clouded by all these, we call them like negative emotions that because they don't feel very good. But we have to process those first. And it's a process. It's not always easy. And if you have trouble with this is what we help people with. We help them to let go of things so they can come with a different energy. And that's how we learn to manifest things in our life, by having a different energy. And love is one of those great energies that is one of the most powerful things we can use to manifest things we want in our life.
All right. So we hope you enjoyed today's topic of forgiveness, and we hope that this has helped you. Share the show if you think somebody can benefit from it. Give us a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. We're live Mondays at 9 a.m. Pacific on Facebook and on YouTube. And yeah, so
Yeah.
we'll be back next week.
All right, guys. Thank you for being here with us today. And we will see you next time.
Have a great day.
Bye, guys.